Welcome once again to Lynda Rose. And Lynda, we've got to talk first of all, sadly, about Charlie Kirk. Brilliant guy, great Christian guy, great family guy. And at 31, his life is taken. Now, you can't build anything into that other than think and pray about the family. Sadly, that's not for everybody in America, especially from the Democrat side of their party political system. They're objecting to praying for him.
Yes, I mean, it really is beyond words, the tragedy of what's happened to Charlie Kirk, because he was a young man so on fire for the Lord and doing tremendous work over there with young people. But he was obviously didn't attract universal support. He was obviously divisive because he was standing for the gospel, really. And I mean, I was really shocked this morning when somebody sent me a video of a meeting that they'd had in Congress, and it had been proposed that they have a time of prayer for Charlie Kirk, which you would think was pretty much standard because, it's what all governments do when somebody dies, they pray for them. You would not believe the outcry from the Democrats who would not pray. And I was shocked by this, Rodney. I mean, when you think back to all the outcry after what happened with George Floyd, who, he was stopped in a car by the police. Um, he had a track record, for illegal activities. Let's put it that way. Very tragic that he died. Of course it was, but the nation, united all sides in saying how tragic that was. There was prayer for him. And yet, an innocent man shot through the neck at a rally where he was in debate about Christianity. And instead of what should be 100% sympathy and outcry against violence, they're refusing to join in prayer for him. I can't believe that. To me, that says that there is a strong spiritual battle going on in the world at this time between good and between evil. And evil will not give an inch to support anything that is good. Um, I think we're in bad times, Rodney. I think the world actually is coming up to a real crisis point. It feels like, the carbuncle is actually coming more and more into the open here. So yeah, I mean it is beyond tragedy what has happened to him and his family. I mean, one's heart can only go out to them at this time because he was 31, two small children. Oh, what is this going to do to his family? How is his wife? How is she feeling this morning? It's terrible.
Yes, without those of the consolation that is obtained through faith in Christ, it must be dreadful. But the opposition, there's a good word that'll wind you up or breathe reality, would not have you believe that Christianity is a solution to many problems. And they would point to the law, to the way that society can function on socialism or the grounds of socialism. And there are many examples of how it just doesn't. And I tell you one thing that we've got to discuss, and that's regarding the flag, because this has been a hot summer of hot flags. And this speaks a volume of words in that we can put Palestinian flags, LGBT flags, everything up there, but try and put the Union flag or the St. George's Cross. And the police, even at demonstrations, are saying, oh, that's a bit in your face. The opposition over the other side of the street won't like that. Take it down. That's awful. I mean, councils are just as guilty, aren't they, by, oh, you painted a St. George's Cross on the roundabout. Well, scrub it off. They do immediately. They mind the potholes round the roundabout. they'll scrub the roundabout clean, and they'll take flags off lampposts because it is health and safety issue. That is absolute rubbish.
I agree. I think what we're actually seeing in the UK at the moment is a real, very intense ideological battle. And there is an ideology that is very hostile to British identity, to our heritage, to our Christian values. And that's what we're actually seeing. You know, yes, you're absolutely right when you say that councils have been happily putting up LGBT flags everywhere and painting the roads, the zebra crossings with rainbow colours and painting buses in rainbow colours, and even the police cars have been painted in rainbow colours because it is pushing an ideological agenda. And of course, the traditional Christian British values are against that agenda because, you know, they stand for something that is very different to that agenda. So I think what we're seeing when the councils and people react so strongly against any demonstration of support for British values, it is again this ideological battle that is coming out. But it's been absolutely fascinating to me, Rodney, just these past weeks. Every town, every city I've been in, and I go around quite a bit, as you will appreciate, I've seen these flags and they've been astonishing. And that to me says that actually ordinary Joe Public is a bit fed up at having this agenda forced onto them that is so hostile to Britain, to what we stood for, to our heritage, to our democracy. And it feels like people are rising up and saying, enough's enough. You know, we are British and we support these values. And actually, I say bring it on because we are British. You know, our culture, our laws, our society, everything is founded on Christian belief, on the Bible. And this is what in the past made Britain great. Because however imperfectly, and we've never been perfect, you know, okay, we know we haven't been perfect, but we have in our bumbling, quiet way, and we are a quiet people actually, and we have valued righteousness, duty, responsibility, decency. We have cared for others. And you look back at our history, you know, there are so many social reforms that we have put forward in this nation and, you know, wider beyond our nation. But they have been carried out in attempted obedience to Christ. And they're good. And it's all of this that is kind of under attack these days. You know, increasingly we're being told, well, everything you've done in the past, actually, it was just because you're wicked, evil exploiters. You were trying to impose your colonialist views on your own nation, on those outside. I'm not saying that there haven't been mistakes made by people. You always get some, you know, rotten apples, don't you? You know, wherever you are. So I'm sure that, yes, we must have made mistakes because that's the nature of human life. But I do know too that as a nation, as a people, we have tried to follow the Lord. And it is that that is under threat now. And I just look back at my own life and, you know, remembering growing up. And my parents were very Christian. They weren't sort of, you know, charismatic, going out all the rest of it. They were actually, you know, very sort of solid British Christians. But their values meant so much to them. And I can remember my father, you know, sort of telling me off sometimes when I did things that I shouldn't have done because this isn't the way that we behave. People were actually, you know, looking back, there was a kind of a niceness to how we approached other people because we were taught to respect them because others were made in the image of God and they needed respect. And that's kind of gone in recent years because these days, as a society, we have increasingly, we're replacing Christ with self, this tin pot God that is me, myself, what I want. This is what matters, and I'm going to have it because, I've got to realize myself, I've got to realize my full potential. And it's this dog eat dog mentality that has wound itself into society. And we have lost that genuine respect and care for others, that duty towards others, and the responsibility that comes from our Christian faith towards others. Years ago it was said, to whom much has been given, much will be required. You have to pay it back. That's gone these days because in this brave new ideological world we live in, it's all me. We say diversity. Well, that's great, provided it's what I see as diversity. Tolerance, that's great, provided it's me that's being respected. So,
Lynda, it's painfully obvious. I mean, as Christians, well, Christianity came over nearly 2,000 years ago, but in becoming established, let's say we've got at least 1,500 years of it. And we've got most things right. Not everything, but our society has been underpinned by it. Our laws have been underpinned by it. Our literature has been underpinned by it, even our architecture. So you think back to these halcyon days because we've lost them, and we've lost them, and it's our own fault. We've chosen another way. This is Marxism. Call it what you like, but let's get down to it. Marxism is atheism. They do not want the Christian state. It's anathema for them. And it's taking over many, many countries. Some are still holding up to gospel truths. And we've got, instead of in the name of the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit, we've got now, of course, in the name of diversity, equality and inclusivity. That's the new mantra. And it's not working. We are a terrible state. You've only got to walk in our cities, if you dare, in some of them after 6 o'clock at night and before then. It's not a good place we're in. But we will not look at that because we don't want to hear the truth, hiding our heads in the sand. But we also got to look at the church. We've been without an Archbishop of Canterbury now for months. The Catholics get it done in 10 days. We're still waiting. And there's no leadership. We're in a quandary. Who will eventually be the next leader? Will it be the same regime as we've always had? What do you think? As a Anglican priest.
I think the church has very much lost its way in recent years. And increasing when you have people like the Archbishop of Canterbury saying, I think I got it wrong. I shouldn't have actually believed what the Bible said because times have changed and we need to move with it. We're in major problems when we do that. You cannot be a Christian and not believe in the Bible. You cannot be a Christian and not honor the sacrifice that Christ made for our redemption. And yet that is what has been pushed forward in recent years so much, not just in the Anglican Church, Rodney, but in all denominations. And even, we're seeing it increasingly in the Catholic Church these days too. And, morally, they have very much been holding the line up until a couple of decades ago. So all the churches are trying to become culturally relevant. And what this means in effect is that, we swapped our worship of Christ for self. And sadly, that is being honored increasingly in the Anglican Church. And I very much fear that the new Archbishop, whoever he or she may be, will be very committed to these woke views that are actually diametrically opposed to the values of the Bible. And it is no wonder, really, that Christianity has appeared to be dying on its feet in recent years. And it should deservedly die when it is espousing these wrong beliefs. Now, that doesn't mean the church is dying, because the church is actually the family of believers. And I do believe that we are seeing something very powerful going on, a re-emergence. I'm not going to say revival, because I think it's a re-emergence of the Church of God. But that is actually, sadly, quite far removed from the established churches and the established leaderships, because they've been following a different gospel. So I do not see any sign that the new appointment, the Archbishop of Canterbury, whenever it is made, will be following a revolutionary path and returning us back to Christ. I think sadly we will see more of these woke, culturally relevant ideas with the gospel for our time. Oh, so brave. Um, it's quite depressing, Rodney. We need to go back to the Bible. We need to discover why it is we're Christians. And I honestly don't know why people who don't acknowledge Christ, know Christ, follow Christ, I don't know how on earth they can call themselves Christian. And yet some of them do. And sadly, quite a few of those are the bishops.
Going to give you a treat before we go. And it's a woman's world. Of course it is. You got to look at the next deputy leader of the Labour Party. It's well, I'll guess it's going to be a woman. That's not a guess. There's only 6 of them that have applied for the job. They're all women. Well, okay. As a man, it's up to the leadership of the Labour Party. But it's indicative of not looking for the best person for the job, but towing the particular party line at the time. Now, I mention that because my Christmas present for you, an early one, is well, the Anglican Church can't even get themselves to appoint a new Archbishop. So I'm going to appoint you for a short while, and I'm going to ask you, day one, feet under the table, who you're going to call into your office and say, come on, guys and gals, we've got to get this lot together.
Oh, golly. Well, in the unlikely event they made me, in the impossible event they made me Archbishop of Canterbury, I would call all of them together and I would say, guys, this changes from day one. We are now going to return to the Bible. We will espouse the Bible, and if you don't go along with it, then your resignation will be very happily received now. So I would call all of us back to the Bible, and I would say the church now is going to take seriously the call to be the shepherd of the family of God. And we are going to once again stand for truth, and we are going to speak it out into the marketplace, because we are going to be a beacon to this society. So we will speak truth. We will speak it to government. We will speak it to individuals. And yes, I would say from now on, we are going to speak that truth clearly. There will be no compromise with the gospel. It'll be done in a spirit of love, because ours is not judgmentalism. It's not for us to judge, it's for God to judge. But we are going to be a guardian of the truth, which we will proclaim without fear or favor. And I mean, that might sound fairly standard, Rodney. You might just think, okay, so what? But actually, this is fairly radical because for years the church has been so compromising and so, oh, we mustn't cause offense. And we've got to keep our heads down because if we want to stay relevant in society, we've got to go along with society. I would say that stops. Now we stand on truth, and society has to catch up with us because we are going to guard that truth. So, yeah, oh, yes, and I'd kind of reorganize. I love the churches, the old churches that we've got in this land. They are so beautiful. But I know that the church is not a building. The church is the family of believers. And every single Christian, when we're saved, we come to know Christ, and God gifts us. And He doesn't gift us just because He thinks, oh, oh, poor old Rodney, he's had a bit of a rough time. So I'm going to save him. Hi, Rodney. I'm going to give him a gift to make him feel good. There, Rodney. Just sit down over there and just enjoy your gift, guy. God saves us because He calls us in. He has a purpose for us, and He calls us into this active battle that is raging on this earth between good and evil. And our call is to carry the light and to be a witness. And that's every single Christian. There is no such thing as pew fodder. There is no such thing as a Christian who doesn't. You're on active service as soon as you become a Christian. We all have different gifts, just like an army. You know, you've got the artillery, the I'm not very good with army things. I don't know who does what, but the kitchen staff, they've got to feed the army. They'd hate me for calling them kitchen staff, wouldn't they? But there's all these different aspects, and they're all vital. And that's the church of God. That is the church. It's not a building. So if I were Archbishop of Canterbury, I'd be saying to everybody, you now are an active service. You have been uniquely gifted by God with certain gifts that you've got to use. So I would be encouraging every Christian to discover what those gifts are and then to go out and use them. So I think I'd be starting from a kind of a different place. And again, with the whole hierarchical structure of the Church of England, and then we have priests, we have deacons. Again, God gifts people in different ways for the protection and the building up of the fellowship. And some people He will call into a pastoring role. Some people He will call into being evangelists, take the gospel out. The idea of a priesthood is something that we have put into our social structure as the church became established. And it's gone back to the old-fashioned idea of the priesthood that you see in the Old Testament. But that's not what Christ said. Christ said, you are a royal priesthood, every believer. So again, I would want the church, if I were Archbishop of Canterbury, to identify, to recognize, to affirm the giftings of people. So I would actually, I think, a bit controversial this, I would be reordering our whole approach to priesthood. I think that'd be enough to start with.
Oh, that's it. Well,
think
that's
there
a
was
whole program in itself. We should cover that next time. Well, next time is the usual, about 3 weeks' time. We'll be speaking to Lynda again. By that time, she will be incumbent as boss of the Anglican Church, and we'll see how far she's got. You've got plenty of problems, Lynda, enough before that. We'll see you shortly.
okay. Good to see you, Rodney.